So if you had bought in 2020 or 2021, maybe only put down 3%, maybe only put down 5%, you could be underwater.
Those are the people that I'm talking about. The people that bought in the last 2 to 3 years are the people that could be in trouble.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Shawn and Matt Show. My name is Matt, that is Shawn. Welcome to our show. Shawn, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about home design trends that are on their way out. We're going to be talking about zombie foreclosures. And then we're going to be talking about in or out, whether Shawn Battle is in or out on a couple specific properties across the United States. Shawn, let's start with an article from thekitchen.com. Kitchen spelled with no E. I feel like if you're going to start a website or a brand or a company, have that word and then just remove a couple letters and then it's like cool.
Oh yeah, it's totally trendy,
super cool.
Man.
So
3 things that are going out is the words without
vowels. Vowels are so out in 2023. Yeah. All right, so this comes to us from thekitchen.com. No E in kitchen. The home design trends that are on their way out this year. Number 1, open concept homes. Shawn, does your house have an open concept? My condo, I would say, has like a traditional layout, right? It has like a living room, it has a dining room, it has a kitchen. Now, I didn't do anything to that layout, and I think because of the way that the kitchen's basically in the middle of all that area, it wouldn't make sense to open it up.
Yeah.
But I would certainly be interested if the floor plan could suit an open kitchen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going out. I think it's still there. I can see the traditional kind of things coming back. My house is not completely open. My kitchen to my family room is. It's a nice big open space, but then you have a separate dining room, a separate living room, separate office, so it's not completely open. And I think maybe why this might be going out is because people are spending more time at home and they need a little bit more privacy in their living space.
They need different rooms.
Yeah.
When you were, looking at houses and stuff, when you saw your house, were you thinking, okay, I need to take down this wall, or okay, let's plan on having this open up? How did that come about?
It was studs inside. So when I saw my house at first, when I originally saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this place needs so much work. I don't even know what to do. But yeah, it was more of, I can say that the floor plan was all right. It was okay, and there wasn't a huge amount done to it. Where it was changed is where the steps were. Some of these old houses, you have straight up steps. These steps that just go like at an angle. And I was like, all right, well, the main thing that we've got to do in here is change the stairwell, make it turn, and make it wider and not so steep. But in a lot of these homes in the colonials that we see in North Arlington, I'm definitely telling people to open them up. I mean, that's still a trend, and I think it needs to happen, especially in smaller homes. You need to open up these areas so it doesn't feel so claustrophobic. But the new builds that I'm seeing are definitely, there's always going to be at least 2 rooms that are united, and then you might have a separate dining room. But I don't see it going away completely. I don't know.
I think it depends on the house. I mean, you go through some houses and it makes sense to open it up, but I've walked through other houses in Arlington with first-time home buyers, and they were like, yeah, I would take this down this wall, I'd take down this wall, I'd take that. Like, dude, we've just taken down the entire first level. If that's what you're going to do, you just need to buy a different house. Like, this isn't the house for you if you need to renovate the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is a lot of people start thinking, oh, look what I can do, look what I can do to it. But are you really going to do that? Do you really want to go through all that work? Because I've done it. It's a pain, especially if you buy it and you're living there and you're saying, oh, I'm going to have this done after we move in. You won't do it.
Realistically, you're not going to do it.
So you have to do it before you, right after you settle, before you move in. If you're doing any work, do it then. Otherwise, you're not going to do it.
Number 2 on the home design trends to say goodbye to, cheap replicas. So basically, something cheap, something that looks like something expensive. I mean, that's pretty obvious that doesn't stand the test of time. Number 3, Shiplap. Shawn, what are your views? Shawn Gaines
Shiplap.
Over here. Chip Gaines, Chip and Joanna.
Yeah,
Gaines.
yeah, just call me Chip. Shiplap. So are they talking just the boards going across?
The boards going across the wall.
Yeah, I think that could be going out.
People love Shiplap.
I think it's still there. One trend I'm seeing right now that I personally love isn't the shiplap, traditional shiplap, but is designs in the wood. Like they're adding little designs in just skinny pieces of wood that are going throughout the wall. You can see it in some of the modern homes. I love that look right now. So I don't think shiplap's going to be completely out. I think there's uses for it. There's little accent wells you can always use. I'm still liking it.
Well, I'm out on shiplap. The article says, unless you live in an actual farmhouse, you may want to consider a faux finish or better yet, wallpaper.
Yeah,
Wallpaper's in.
Wallpaper's totally in.
Wallpaper's in.
Look at that.
Look at that wallpaper.
Matt's always before the trends. You know, he always is bringing these things back. So
setting trends left and right. Number 4, another trend that I'm on board with is an all-white kitchen. I hope I don't have to eat my words and say, in 10 years, what idiot millennial thought an all-white kitchen was a good idea because you just get everything dirty. I love all-white kitchens. I just do.
Yeah, well, it feels nice, crisp, and clean, and I do have an all-white kitchen, all-white cabinets with white quartz counters, and it feels nice and open and airy and fresh, right? And I think that's what people look for. Now, that trend, it will go away. I mean, you're seeing it now where you're seeing cool colored cabinets. You're seeing actually natural wood cabinets come back. These trends always go back and forth. And I can remember back in the 90s that they were doing white kitchens. And when they went out hard. You know, it was like,
what were people saying? Like, oh, this is just ugly. Was it a material or like an aesthetic and
well, yeah,
color?
Back then it was like, you know, pressed cabinets with a white, you know, piece over it. And they would have like the no granite on the counters and then white appliances. So everything was white. And, you know, for the time it was fine, but it went out hard for sure.
Yeah, the article says that dark colors are making appearances, like dark green have been shown up as a trend. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really cool cabinets out right now. But you think about, do you want that? Once you have it, you can't really change it. And if you're going bold on the cabinet color, it's an expensive piece of your kitchen, and so you can't really change it very easily.
Right. Number 5, all gray interiors. I'm definitely on board with this. Like, gray had its moment. Now
we used it up.
Yeah,
I mean, we painted everything gray for years.
Yeah,
for 5-6 years, and I think now we got to start choosing different colors for sure.
We used literally all of the passive gray in Sherwin-Williams' collection.
They had no more left
between the two of us.
And we did.
We crushed it.
Number
6, Miniscule home office. You know, obviously, the home office is now more of a priority than it ever has been.
Yeah, and you know, people. I think there was a trend last year. We were talking about like the big office desks were going out, and I'm like, no, I just bought a big office desk, and I have a pretty decent sized office, and I felt like, no, I think they're going to come back, and I'm happy with my office. You know, I think that you need a big one, especially if you're working from home, even if you're working home for 2 to 3 days.
I remember I was giving you some lip about that office desk. How is it working out for you?
I like it, man. It's there's storage. There's
but the room is big enough to fit the office. Like, you ever go to like a 2-bedroom and den condo, or maybe like a 3-bedroom house, and that 3rd bedroom is just like built-in large desk. I mean, I get it, but then, you know, you kind of get handcuffed a little bit.
I'm not a built-in kind of office guy. I like some cabinets here and there, and a big desk. You don't need a big desk, but I felt that the room that we were putting this in, that was kind of the focal piece. And so it works. I actually enjoy it.
Number 7, boho style. Shawn, I don't know if I could describe to you boho style,
I
but
don't know what that is.
You know, a politician said, you know, about adult videos, like, he can't describe it, but he knows it when he sees it, right? So boho style, I know it when I see it. Think like dream catchers and feathers and I think peonies. Boho style is out. After a year plus of living life in yoga pants and ponytails, I think people are ready to feel put together again.
I didn't even know it was in. So
it's when I was doing Airbnb stuff, a lot of Airbnbs are like boho style. So that's the big thing. But I think definitely like time and place, and if you're in like a geographic region.
Sure, yeah, no, everything has a time and place.
Number 8, mosaic tiles. Shawn, what are your thoughts on mosaic floors?
Yeah, they can go. Mosaic floors, especially when you're trying to do like patterns and crazy things in them, I was never really into them. I could see mosaic tile backsplashes here and there might still work, but flooring, no way.
I don't know if I have a file on Mosaic floors. I have a file on Mosaic, the district. You ever go to Mosaic Shopping District in Fairfax?
Yeah. So I was never really a big fan of Mosaic tile.
That Mosaic.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's pretty intense.
That's very intense.
It's like European bath.
Intense. Yeah, and it's like that's kind of what you see in these super super high end luxury.
Maybe
places,
that like scaled down a lot.
Yeah.
Number 9, Waterfall kitchen islands.
I was surprised to see this. Honestly,
do you have a Waterfall kitchen island?
No, I don't. But this was a big trend in all of the new builds around Arlington. All of the craftsmen have Waterfall kitchen islands, and so what that is if you don't know, it's you have your kitchen island with a quartz countertop, and then both sides come down, so the quartz comes down on the sides, and then it's kind of an enclosed piece. It's kind of excessive, right?
Isn't it just a complete waste of quartz?
Yeah, it is. It's a complete waste of quartz.
You can't just chop vegetables on the side,
but
defy gravity.
It was a big trend. I mean, it was in pretty much every home that I looked at.
It can look kind of gaudy. Like if you ever see like the dark, like marble or dark, I don't know if there's dark quartz, but like dark quartz waterfall, that's like very like Miami, what drugs did you sell in the 1980s?
Yeah, it's like, think about the countertops that were like black countertops, and then you took that granite and you put it as your backsplash, and it was just like way too much, So maybe that's the trend. Maybe it's a little too over the top, too much.
Number 10, harsh metals. I don't really know what this means.
Harsh metals.
What is a harsh metal?
I don't know, because
bold metal finishes.
Okay. I mean, everything's a metal finish, isn't it? I mean, that's what your cabinets have, the metal finish. Pulls your
deep rust colors.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it really depends on the house. I didn't even know it was really a trend. I mean, you're seeing, what is it? Pewters and brushed nickel is big, or was big and always still is, I guess, but I could see the brushed nickel starting to go out. I did see the gold come back, right? We've seen the gold metals coming back. I've experimented with it. I have a couple gold accents, which I never thought would come back, but you got to use it tastefully.
Here and there, gold is cool, but if like the entire house is gold, it's like
overkill. And that's what they used to do in the 90s as well. Everything was gold accents, right? Gold trim.
Gold and brass.
Yeah.
No bueno.
No.
Okay, let's move on to our second article. This comes to us from ATTOM. Data.com. Zombie property count ticks upward across the United States in the fourth quarter. So zombie properties, zombie foreclosures.
I had never heard of this.
Never heard of it?
No.
I can't say I have. So this is a little bit of like a themed like zombie Halloween type of situation going on there. Basically, unoccupied foreclosure. So a property that's in pre-foreclosure that's been abandoned by the owners. Zombie properties, there's about 7,000 and change of zombie properties, zombie foreclosures, and that's up a little bit, but still like there's not tons of them out there. There's essentially just over 1.2 million U.S. homes that are vacant, and of those 1.2 million homes, about 7,000 of them are what's known as the zombie foreclosures, Shawn, and it goes into the cities that have the most zombie foreclosures. So the highest zombie rates are in Wichita, Kansas. Never thought I'd say that sentence.
Yeah, the highest zombie rates. See, they are real.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Did you see Zombieland?
No. Is this a new
Emma Stone?
Oh, no.
No, one of the characters is named Wichita. Yeah.
Look at that. I wonder if they got
Are
it
they
from this...
up on the zombie foreclosure
maybe
numbers?
They are. Yeah, but I'm sure they're researching zombie all the time. So
great movie.
Well, no, I haven't seen that.
Wichita, Kansas, Peoria, Illinois. Pains me to say it. Syracuse, New York.
I saw that.
Toledo, Ohio, and Cleveland, Ohio. 2 Ohios coming in on an unforgiving list here. So, Shawn, I guess all right. So I have this. All right, what should I do with this information? Right, like we read these articles, we talk about the articles. What to do with the articles? What I'm getting at is there's not a lot of them. There's 7,000 in the entire United States. As for actual vacant properties. There's about 1.3 of the vacant property and zombie foreclosure report, 1.3 million properties in the United States sit vacant. Obviously, if we could wave a magic wand and say, all right, let's fix these properties and get people to move in at market rate or below market rate, that would help solve the affordable housing crisis. But clearly we can't do that, Shawn. So what's your train of thought when you're reading an article like this?
Yeah, areas. Where are these zombie homes or foreclosures? And it was in kind of the Midwest, maybe Rust Belts, where incomes aren't as much, and the homes are older. And so that's the trend in those areas where a lot of people have moved out. They're saying, all right, you know what? I can't sell this place. I'm done. I'm out. Foreclosures haven't been on our radar for a long time, but we've talked about this. I feel like we could start seeing them come back, especially as values drop. Now, I'm not saying they're going to drop everywhere, but there are pockets that are dropping pretty significantly, and so
they're probably going to drop everywhere.
Yeah, they probably are. So, and they are. They're dropping everywhere pretty much. I mean, we're seeing slips. We did see an article before where there were some cities but they're still up a little bit, maybe 1%, maybe 3%. But those are old numbers. And as we always say, these numbers take time because real estate isn't 100% liquid right away. It takes 30 to 60 days to see what the trend is. And, the properties that we're selling right now, most of them we're seeing come in under the price. Anyways, I feel like the zombie foreclosures is a new term to me, and I never really thought about it. But why would people move out of their property prior to going into foreclosure? Or I wonder if this is after the bank says, hey, we're foreclosing on you. They boot them out, and now it's just sitting there. It's now a real estate owned by the bank. It's already foreclosed on. Then that bank has to try to get rid of it, and it's the bank's problem. But we could start seeing more of this because, and it's different reasons than we saw it for before, but it's kind of the same concept. The values are going to start dropping, and all these people that purchased too high, some of these homes, they're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to flip it around in 3 to 5 years. And in 3 to 5 years, those values might not come back to where they paid, because we've seen so many people overpaying or paying market value for the last 2 years, which was crazy. It was up 20%. And so if we see that 20% drop, they can't sell. They're stuck. If jobs change for a lot of people, as we're seeing, unemployment rates go up, we could start seeing a lot more zombie foreclosures.
Did you hear about the property in Clinton, Maryland that had squatters move in the day it was bought?
I did hear that.
I was going to do like a whole thing about it, but I mean, let's be honest. Squatters is unfortunately not like a noteworthy story, right? That happens like all the time. But if you didn't hear about it, essentially there was a property in foreclosure. I believe it was in foreclosure. There was a vacant property. Someone, a young couple bought the property, and then squatters moved into the home like the same day that they bought it.
And they couldn't get rid of them. They can't get rid of them.
And you can't, and people are like, oh, well, last time I checked, I can bear arms. It's like, well, you can also be charged for murder.
Yeah.
If you do anything, you also be charged for a crime. I'm not up to date on Maryland laws, but you can't just go in and like cut the electricity, or you can't just like cut the power, or you can't just like forcibly remove them. You actually have to go through the process. Which stinks, in my opinion. I'd be like, cutting it off, breaking the windows, get out of here, make it uncomfortable for them. But, I mean, it's your property. You own it. They shouldn't be there in the first place. But, I mean, they had like a green Camaro parked outside. just terrible. But it does go to show, like, are foreclosures going to pick up? Is that something that's going to happen? I mean, we're seeing interest rates rise. We're seeing housing prices fall. Is foreclosure the next domino to fall? Because it goes back to equity, right? So many people have a lot of equity in their properties, so it's doubtful. But we've seen such a big shift in the past 2 years that I'm reading articles where some prices are similar to those prices that were in 2019. So the rise in interest rates in the past 6 months have completely wiped away any sort of gains that homeowners have had in the past 3 years. So if you had bought in 2020 or 2021, maybe only put down 3%, maybe only put down 5%, you could be underwater.
Those are the people that I'm talking about. The people that bought in the last 2 to 3 years are the people that could be in trouble, especially in these neighborhoods or these cities that we've talked about in the past, where their income levels they're not sustainable, or they're not high enough to, help these buyers stay in the property that they overpaid for. And that's another thing. Lenders, if you ever get a pre-approval, you're going to look and say, wow, I'm pre-approved for that much. Like I never thought that's a little high, right? So some people that aren't thinking about their monthly debt, and the thing that they've got to think about is, can I make that payment every month? They're overspending on their house, and they could become that victim of foreclosure. So I'm worried about the 2 to 3 years in the cities that, like these cities we're talking about, the Syracuse, New Yorks, the Ohios, the cities in Ohio, that saw a rise in the values, but their incomes can't hold that person there.
Definitely something to watch for in 2023.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to in or out. We're going to ask Shawn Battle if he's in or out on these houses. Shawn, first house comes to us from Realtor.com, another Halloween-themed house. Title is America's Only Legally Haunted House Actually Haunted? Have you heard about this story?
No, I haven't.
Comes to us from, oh man, I can't wait to butcher this city's
awesome.
name. Nyack, New York.
Nyack.
It's just north of New York City. Gorgeous house that's on the water. Essentially, what happened was in the 60s and the 70s, there were all sorts of paranormal activities. Sellers knew about it and told people, but didn't tell the buyer. So the buyer put down the earnest money deposit, was going to buy it, and then heard about that it was haunted and all these crazy things were happening. And then the buyer was like, no, I want to back out. I want my deposit back. And the seller was like, no. And so the buyer sued the seller, took them to the Supreme Court, the New York Supreme Court. And the New York Supreme Court ruled that if the house is haunted or is having paranormal activities, then you have to share that with the buyer. So it became the Ghostbusters rule. So in New York and in a couple other states, you have to disclose whether or not the house is haunted.
Yeah.
Shawn, are you in or out on buying America's possibly only legally, it went to the Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court, legally haunted house?
Legally haunted house. Depends on if I'm living there full time. If I'm living there full time in a haunted house, I am not buying it. No way. I'm out. If I'm thinking, all right, I can use this as an Airbnb type property where I can sell it to the seekers, the shows that are doing all the paranormal activity, I think it's probably a good buy for that. One thing I'll note, it is right next to water. And if you know anything about paranormal stuff, they say water is one of those things that is attractive. But here's another thing. They might hear things in the property. And I'll say that when I lived in Lake Barcroft, that water, noises travel. And so one time I was like sitting in my bed and I'm like, what is that? It sounds like somebody's whispering in my ear. But I think it was actually just noise traveling over that water. So there could be, paranormal activity in there. It could be, I don't know.
The house was built in the 1890s, and the story says that during the time, neighborhood children would say they saw faces in the windows. Like, okay, yeah, kids from the 1890s. Like, there's no evidence. Like, they could have been squatters. Could have been squatters in the window. Like, are we really going to believe kids from like the 1890s? The house has been sold a couple times. Obviously, since that court ruling in the 1970s.
You know what's interesting is we do not have to disclose if a house is haunted. That's not something that we disclose. And I wonder how many states actually have this law that they have to disclose a haunting. But it brings up an interesting point because you have to disclose anything that you know of that is wrong with the property. So in that regard, would it be something that we have to disclose because there's something wrong with it? We know of something wrong. It is haunted. right?
I need to correct myself real quick. The lawsuit was actually in the 1990s. So not the 1970s, the 1990s. So much more recent development rather than the 70s.
That's an interesting thing. So courts could argue that this is something wrong with the property, whether you believe in it or not. Correct?
It doesn't matter if you believe in it. It just matters that the public believes that there's something paranormal about the property.
Yeah,
and like you've seen the sign writers where it says house is definitely not haunted. Like, yeah, it's a joke, but it's not a joke in these 4 states. What is it? New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and one other state.
Yeah, but it brings up a good point. I mean, is this something, even in our state, where you don't have to disclose a haunting, but it's a negative, something that you know of that is negative to a property? It's something that brings its value down or could bring its value down. Should you disclose that? Brings up a point. I mean, you could find yourself in a lawsuit because you didn't disclose it, I would think.
The 1991 ruling read, the seller deliberately fostered the public belief that her home was possessed. So the seller's telling everyone. Seller's like, yeah, my home is haunted, possessed. Having undertaken to inform the public at large, to whom she has no legal relationship, about the supernatural occurrences on her property, she may be said to owe no less a duty to her contract vendee. So that the states, New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Minnesota, you have to disclose supernatural activity.
That's pretty cool.
So, I mean,
am I in or out? I'm not buying it. No.
So you believe in this stuff?
I've never had
think that
anything.
Kids in the 1890s are seeing little faces in the windows?
I think it's all explainable. I've never seen anything that
you watch too
makes
much
me
First
believe
48, huh?
I do watch myself some First 48, but I've never experienced any paranormal activity. So right now, I would say that I'm not going to say it doesn't exist. I'm not going to do it. How about you, Matt?
Would you spend the night there?
Sure, I'd definitely spend the night there. I'd like to find out why don't we do a show in a haunted house?
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Well, it's sold a couple years. It's sold to Ingrid Michaelson. Do you know Ingrid Michaelson? She's a singer. Sold to her in 2012 for $1.725, and then most recently sold last year, March 2021, for $1.795. The owners are renovating the house.
Where was that? That was in New York?
Yes.
It's a big dollar place.
It's a huge house.
It's a huge place.
It's nice.
It looks pretty spooky.
Yeah, I don't believe all that stuff, so I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm in on the
buying,
house.
Huh? Maddie's buying.
All right, next in or out, Shawn, is a completely different house. It is called Frying Pan Tower. Have you heard of Frying Pan Tower?
I've heard of Frying Pan Park, but not Frying Pan Tower.
Okay,
no.
Frying Pan Tower is located about 35 miles off the coast of North Carolina. Okay. And it used to be and still is a research base. Back in the day, it would help mariners, it would help sailors navigate the waters, because that part off of the Outer Banks, off of North Carolina, is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic.
Yeah. All
sorts of shipwrecks are happening there. And so now you can literally stay the night on this this research tower that's like 50 feet above the water. And so
I just saw a picture of it.
some YouTubers just spent the night there, maybe spent the weekend there. And these aren't just any YouTubers. It's the Vagabonde family staying at Frying Pan Tower, America's most dangerous Airbnb. You have to go up a rope, and she's doing it with like her little kid, and they have like 2 kids, and so the dad was like with the kid also. And there's piranhas in the water, there's sharks in the water. There's no way to actually get into the property without, getting belayed up, essentially, if rock climbing. And, on the inside, it's, a nice accommodation. There's like a pool table, there's beds, there's a kitchen. Shawn, would you ever stay at Frying Pan Tower?
No. Absolutely not. I am completely out on this. I don't think there's piranhas. I think piranhas are a South American thing. We will say sharks and very aggressive fish around here. Now, I have fished off of the coast of North Carolina out of Oregon Inlet. And let me tell you, those waters sometimes can be nice and calm. But I've been out there when storms hit, and it is amazing how that changes. And it's spooky. And this thing looks beyond spooky to me. Anything that is like old and out in the water and just nowhere near land like that is just, there's no way I'm into this thing. And I'm surprised I haven't heard of this because I do go fishing out there fairly often. Maybe it's in a different portion of the coast, but that's spooky looking.
I'll play the video here for you.
Okay.
And I know it's like stood the test of time and it's been here for so long.
It looks like an old oil rig, right?
I think is
that what it is?
Yeah, that could be what it is. But like, there's no way, like open water. By the way, have you seen the movie Open Water?
No, I don't think I have.
That will give you nightmares.
Well, and the thing is, when you're out in the water and you see big structures, could you imagine like being in the water and a huge cruise ship or a huge fishing vessel comes by you? It's just a spooky, spooky feeling. I hate that feeling. And that's the way I feel when I see this thing. I would steer far, far away from this, my friend.
I could not be more out on something like this. Hey, if it's a lighthouse, if I can like start at the bottom and like work my way up, like possibly if I can see like the coast. But if you're telling me I'm like 35 miles off the coast of this hurricane alley, this graveyard of the Atlantic.
And you know how long it takes to get 35 miles out in the ocean? I mean, that is about an hour and a half to 2 hour trip. That is not a simple trip, and man, when it's rough, it is rough.
So you can stay there. I don't know if it's on Airbnb specifically, but if you go on their website directly, I think you can volunteer and you can look and you could literally stay there. Like you don't have to be some beautiful YouTubers like these Australians are to stay there. You could literally sign up to stay there.
Yeah, I'd like to like go buy it and see where it is, but there's no way I'm purchasing that thing. Absolutely,
you're not doing this to get to the Airbnb.
Don't care. Nope.
This looks like my nightmare.
Yeah, it definitely
Frying Pan Tower. I'm out.
You have to take a rope up. Like that's crazy.
I am so out. Well, let us know in the comment section below if you are in or out. Words don't describe how little interest I have in Frying Pan Tower.
That might be the least interest of any that we've done.
We've done a lot.
Yeah.
You might be into an older house more than you are the frying pan.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Shawn's all about older houses now that he saw the frying pan. He's like, no way, I'm doing the frying pan. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. For Shawn and myself, until next time, we'll see you then.
Take care.